Okay, so this is going out to the people of Canada, and I have to say, I feel for you. This is coming from an American mouth, but I do feel for you because in the past 4 or 5 months or so, maybe, yeah, maybe six, but you dealt with so much. And that's not even considering the Edmonton Oilers' second loss to the Panthers again, but you went through so much in from November to the end of February. You did. You had the Blue Jays come 2 inches away from winning the World Series. Vlad Guerrero missed a solo home run to have his Joe Carter moment. Didn't happen there. Um, Nate McKinnon missed an empty net goal. McDavid and Celebrini missed their breakaways. Devin Tays in the gold medal and still in the gold medal game missed missed a goal because Hellebuck had the held on to his blocker for dear life, and and he and the Americans won and all that, and And you're probably thinking to yourself, don't forget the too many men call. There should have been a too many men call. And yes, there should have been a too many men call in the third period. And the refs shouldn't have swallowed their whistles. But that happens. And and I also feel bad for you because Shohei Ohtani got so much benefit of just getting that extra time just because he was a hitter, and it should have been strike one for delay of game in the World Series and all that when he came up to bat. But life's not fair. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted the Americans to win. I was disappointed in their behavior, and if you want to check that out, you can check out my Substack as well. But Canada, I think that you're gonna get your moment. Maybe not this year, maybe not even the next 2 years. But I think you're going to get something. Whether that's a Stanley Cup, World Series, okay, probably not a World Series. I do think the Blue Jays was more of a fluke win than anything else. Maybe you get another MLS championship, but I think that you're going to get a Stanley Cup in this decade. Maybe not from Toronto, and I probably don't want Toronto to win it. Uh, but Montreal could do it. Uh, Ottawa could do it, even though still I'd prefer Montreal do it, get back to their roots. It's been a while since they've been in it in the finals. Montreal could do it. Edmonton could still find a way to get past everything. Calgary, not feeling it there, but they could do it. But guess what? Most of the time, there will be a Canadian team that gets into the Stanley Cup playoffs. The key word being most of it, too. But and probably, and it's probably your market too. If we do get a Montreal Edmonton Stanley Cup final, I would find that very, very interesting um, to begin with. And that would be pretty good television. And I don't know how that would do in the American markets because it's been a while since we've had an all Canadian Stanley Cup final. And I think 1989 might have been the last time that happened. Would have been 93 had Gretzky been called for, you know, that high stick on Doug Gilmour, and the rest was history, and he should have went to the box. That's life, and that's kind of how life has been in my personal life too. It's like come so close, you're inches away from finishing the task, and then nope, No, so close. And it's like you just keep, but you keep effing going. You just keep effing going because that's what you have to do. And and I am so proud, that we got what we got. I'm happy that we got the game we got. Maybe I'm not happy with the players I rooted for. I'm not. I don't like their character. But but guess what? Having good character, having good characteristics about yourself, at the end of the day, makes you a real winner. I know it's cheesy, but it's true. There are definitely some bad coaches and some bad people in this world. And some players that have horrible attitudes and all the sorts. But the one thing I can say about most Canadians is that they will play their hockey with pride. They will enjoy it. They will have fun. And most of them are good people. So I've played it. I've been fortunate enough to play with them. I've been invited to stick and pucks as well. I've played against them them in high school, and they just apparently come down to Maryland and they play in our public school system too in high school. And if there were any Canadians that I faced during my college days that I had no knowledge about that wound up in the ACHA and had like some dual citizenship, then shout out to you. But there are, and he was a Montreal Canadiens fan, a friend of mine too. Haven't seen him in years. Um, about a year, about like 18 or so months ago, he did call me up after an injury. And that's the thing. But but remember, Canadian fans, you have so much to be grateful for. You're going to get some World Cup games. And, and even though you probably won't have maybe your Canadian national team qualifies and all that, you know, in MLS. I'm not sure if you have though, but don't quote me on that. But you have probably some of the best sports fan bases I've ever seen. And and whether it's the Maple Leafs fan base, the Blue Jays fan base, not so much. Raptors fan base, not so much. Canadians fan base, yeah. And and for when they were there, the Expos. I get the disappointment with not winning your championships and coming up short. Believe me, we we Washington Capitals fans had to live through so much. And like if you were like in the late 70s, if you were a fan back in the late 70s and early 80s and stuff, you had to deal with Bob Nystrom and the Islanders and Bossy and the Islanders and Billy Smith and the Islanders. Yeah, and I never recollect the Washington Capitals ever beating the New York Islanders in a playoff run. Never. And that might and they still that could still actually happen if Boston or Buffalo falls off at the moment. But yeah. But but remember, you know, I mean, look, I still feel bad for you because you've gone I've been you've gone longer than I've been alive without a Stanley Cup. I was born in 94. You haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1993. I get that. But in the meantime, you've actually, wait a minute. Let's see. Blue Jays, 93. No, 93. You did not win in 94. We had the lockout and that would have kept your Expos, by the way. Um, with that, didn't happen. Sorry. But but you had the Raptors win the NBA Finals. And you had your MLS championships with Toronto, and you've come very close on multiple occasions with the Canucks, the Oilers, the Senators and the Flames. And the Canadians apparently, will count that weird Tampa Bay Lightning series in 2021 when we were still at the COVID era. But hey, things could have been different. Things could have been very different in 2021 had a certain virus not shown up, you know. But that's okay. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. You know, you and also even though you lost the women's medal game, still, I guess that also still counts as a disappointment too. A lot of fan bases go through hardship. A lot of people will go through hardship, but you've got a great country. You've got a lot to be proud of. And even though we are living in dark times, whether you're an American or a Canadian, you have a lot to be grateful for. And we have this community, and we have communities that we can build upon. And guess what? We're gonna get past it somehow. I don't know how, just trust me, we're gonna get past it. I had a phone call with a friend earlier, or actually two friends, but I just wanted to let them know I'm doing okay. And 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 the first friend I called, I think he did call me back immediately afterward. And he reminded me, who did all this hard work, built this YouTube channel, built your podcast, got good views on a Substack video, which is never something I thought I'd say. You did. You did. And I'm sure if you're watching me right now, you've done something miraculous in your life. You're not a loser. You're a winner. I'm a winner. And because guess what? Maybe I'm not living the life most that most 32-year-olds should be living. You know, I'm not married. I don't have a kid. I'm single. But guess what? All that can change in a moment. And had the Blue Jays won the World Series, you know, it would have been just would have been another moment like that things can change in a moment for the better or for the worst. The Blue Jays almost never made it to the World Series and had the Mariners won that pennant, the AL pennant. I think we would have been a lot less disappointed had the Mariners just even lost in 4 games because they're the last team, you know, they're the last team that's never reached the World Series. Even my Nationals reached the World Series and they won it too. Every other team has reached it at least once. And, and in my life, um, you know, maybe I'm not, you know, as far ahead as my peers, or compared to my peers, but I can't compare my life to them. And you can't compare what you don't have to, you know, to others. And it's a shame. You might have been passed up for promotions. You might have your coworkers get a little mad at you when you don't put a certain macro in your Excel application. But you got to keep moving forward because guess what? That's what I love about the Canadian sports markets is that you still find ways to win. Would it be better if you had another baseball team? Yeah, it would have been great if Labatt Park was made and the Expos never left. But and still it turned into something beautiful too. when they came to the United States and to DC. But guess what? Not too long after that, the Thrashers went to Winnipeg, became the second iteration of the Jets, and that was probably the best thing for the Thrashers. And probably the best thing for the Coyotes was going to Utah as well. But things do have a way of working out. And and guess what? Life is hard enough in America, but guess what? In Canada, you got better food than we do. You got better food than we do. You have real maple syrup, not this high fructose Aunt Jemima stuff, and in that log house, log cabin, whatever it is. I buy pure maple syrup, whether it's from Vermont or Canada, I'll buy it because it's pure, and I don't want high fructose corn syrup because that's not syrup. But guess what? Just like the maple syrup, you are your authentic selves. More Canadians just seem to be, you know, kind and nice, and then they just leave their aggression out on the ice for whatever reason. They just leave it out on the ice. I love the sport of hockey. The podcast is about it. The YouTube channel is about it. The Substack's about it. I've written an audiobook on this. I obviously love it. And despite the heartbreak, despite the pain, despite the Vancouver Canucks possibly coming so close to winning it all twice in 17 in about a 17-18 year span. You appreciate the good moments. You appreciate that you made it. And that's what the Bills did in football. All four times after they lost, they still managed to keep going. Bills have never won a Super Bowl. Josh Allen has been railroaded by Mahomes so many times, but he gets up and he still performs. And even though he was knocked out against Denver, he still kept going. Sabres, lost on a bad call, and Dallas had wins the cup and on a very controversial Brett Hull goal. And guess what? Buffalo has one of the best sports fan bases ever. And you're kind of like Buffalo in a sense, but in a good way. You have an amazing fan base, amazing sports to go to, and you can still capture great moments too, and great announcers and the May goal. That's what they did. A lot of great Canadians passed through your markets. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a great Canadian. I guess we'll count him as a Canadian. Let's just go with it. The Richard brothers did well. Howes were great Canadians. You know, Bobby Hull, the Golden Jet. And then playing for the Winnipeg Jets and then in the WHA was good. This is about you. Don't forget. I do feel for you, as the title says, because, most American markets are not powerhouses. Seattle is certainly not a powerhouse. They just won their second Super Bowl ever. They're not a powerhouse. Seattle hasn't won an NBA championship since the 70s. And the Mariners have had their hearts broken more times than you can count. The Kraken are brand new, but they're not going anywhere. I don't think they're going anywhere this year. San Jose has had, you want to talk about a disappointing fan base? Take a look at San Jose. They came so close to getting the Athletics, but they were blocked by the Giants because the market was, I guess, just too much, but it made no sense, and I wish the MLB had stepped in. Bay Area fans lost lost essentially two of their teams, and they lost the Seals back in the day. You had to lose essentially the first iteration of the Jets. I don't know if um, you might have had some problems with Hamilton and stuff if you really want to get old school. But for the most part, aside from the Expos and the first iteration of the Jets leaving, and and fine, we'll count the Nordiques too. You know, you've managed to maintain a very stable market when it comes to sports. And despite all of the the heartbreaks you go through, just remember, you know, one day you're going to find a good market. One day, one of your teams is going to go off and just start another dynasty. Maybe it's the Canadians. Maybe the Leafs get a dynasty. Who knows? Uh, Maybe the Canucks start winning hockey games again. Maybe the Expos come back, or a team goes to Vancouver or something. A baseball team goes to Vancouver, or the NBA comes back to Vancouver. But but you have to enjoy it. You need to lose to know how to win. And and there's always going to be good competition. Oh, excuse me. There's always going to be good competition. But guess what? Those markets just means that you have a fan base strong enough who's willing to stick it out. And I hope you do stick it out. Enjoy it. Enjoy your hockey. Enjoy your baseball. And enjoy your basketball. Enjoy your soccer. And your Canadian football. And your beer. And your amazing food. Because guess what? You're an amazing person. And whether you're an American, Finn, Swede, Czech, you're from Czechia, from Spain, Mexico, wherever in this world, if you're watching me, thank you. Because guess what? You probably are an amazing person. If you found me at like 124 subscribers, you are. Don't forget it. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and check out the Substack. Peace out, everyone.